Hey guys, what's up? So, going back to the new format, trying it again. I think it worked out good last time. This is not a ministry video. This is more of a political video. It does have a little bit of a ministry in there, I guess. But it's more about current events. And so, President Trump wants to have a military parade. And people are up in arms about this. They say it's to pamper his ego and that the money should go to help Puerto Rico restore electric. Now, I want to look at this in reverse. Let's start with Puerto Rico, because it is a shame what happened to Puerto Rico as a result of those hurricanes. You know, Puerto Rico is this very beautiful island and many amazing people. Their heritage and their customs are beautiful, and their culinary culture, oh my gosh, their culinary culture is freaking amazing. I love it. But that said, you know, most of the issue with the aid to the people came from failures on their own governmental leaders. There's much evidence, much news report articles, and all kinds of clips on the internet that support this. It's very obvious, but I'm not going to stand on that too long. I'm going to say, however, you know, we are already providing assistance to them as far as getting electric back. There's power and light crews from multiple states that have been on the ground in Puerto Rico aiding in this situation. So we're not ignoring them. So that argument is null. Now, so as far as President Trump wanting to feed his ego with this parade, now that's wrong. And I'm going to tell you why. You know, though he's commander-in-chief, he does not build the military himself or even take part in the day-to-day operations. So, in other words, his input to the operations of our military are too minimal for him to take credit for it. And therefore, it does not pamper his ego. It does not pacify his ego. So why a parade then? Oh, I don't know. Maybe for the troops themselves. I mean, think about it. We honor them individually, and we honor them at sporting events and small ceremonies here and there. But now let's be serious. When is the last time that we were able to see them just presented in full regalia? I'm 44. I was born in 1973. If it happened in my lifetime, I either just don't remember it, because maybe I was too young, or maybe I was just too running around batty to even notice it. But I don't remember a time where this has happened. And, you know, when is the last time that they, all the branches as a whole that make up our military, were afforded the opportunity to get all decked out and display their total awesomeness to our nation and to the world? You know, this parade is for their benefit. Their opportunity to be in the spotlight. Their chance to let us, the protected, witness the splendor of them, the protector. You know, not to mention that in putting forth this display, we allow any would-be attacking nations to see the boots that would be firmly placed in their rectum, and therefore allow them the opportunity to second guess any would-be ill intentions they might have towards this great nation of ours. So, I'm all for the military parade. Oh, well, it's going to cost this much money, blah, blah, blah. Okay, one thing. So what? We've been ripping off the military on the men and women on their pay for how long? This government has underpaid our military, our soldiers. Our soldiers themselves, the men and women who comprise our great military. The least we could do is give them a parade. Foot that for them. Where are we going to get money? I don't know. Maybe take it from these sanctuary cities that don't deserve it, since they want to protect the illegals. They want to, oh, you don't need a wall. Oh, yeah, no, because ISIS just comes right across that border. Why stop them, right? So let's start taking money from the sanctuary cities. I'm sure we can figure out how to afford a parade for our great military. So that's my opinions and my thoughts on that. So I'm going to move on to even more recent and probably kind of still a heated debate, which is children be allowed to walk out of school. You know, so yesterday, March 14th, 2017, schools allowed children to take place in a walkout. Most claimed it was to have a 17-minute moment of silence to honor the students and faculty that were murdered in Parkland, Florida by a mass shooter. Others were honest, however. They were honest in what the walkout was, in that it was a protest of the Second Amendment, a demand for gun regulation. So my issue here is three-part. First was that this was a protest, plain and simple. Maybe somewhere in this country there truly was a school who did this for the 17 moments of silence. But the majority of the schools use this as an opportunity to push an agenda. They use these children like puppets. And it was a biased event in the news. You know, there were students that were showing support for the Second Amendment. So the problem here is that they didn't get nearly as much airtime, if any at all. Now, either way, pro 2A or anti 2A, school hours are not the time for protest. Now, this is in bold in my notes because I want it to be understood that if the children want to protest, if they want to protest, then yes, of course, they should be afforded that opportunity to do so, but outside of school hours, not during the time that is set aside for their education. You know, we all know that they're saying there's a time and place for everything. Well, school is a time for learning and a place for education. After school hours, evenings, weekends, perfect time. Because, and I believe this should happen. This should really happen. This should take place. Because these children have every right to know and understand the First Amendment, the right to peaceful assembly. Most definitely, they are our future. We want them to know and understand that when there is an issue, they have every right to come together as an assembly and peacefully protest. We don't want them turning out like these kids that do the Antifa stuff with violence, smashing windows, burning cars, assaulting people. We want these children to understand in the future when they have issues, yes, perfect thing to do is to come together as a peaceful assembly and peacefully protest. They have every right to do that. I 100% support that. Whether I agree with the platform of the protest or not, I do agree with the fact that they have every right to protest. So I believe that this is something that should be taught, just not during school hours. Not during school hours. We have a hard enough time with the education as it is, remember. Now, secondly, I want to address is, why do they not set aside time to discuss and address the real issues? When do we start having conversations, including the children? And that is very important. We cannot keep speaking about this as if the children are not in the room. They are in the room, and they need to be part of these conversations. They need to be part of the conversations, however, that are about the mental health issues and coping with them. And of course, then there's the elephant in the room, which we all know as bullying. When do we start addressing this? You know, by ignoring these two subjects, we are setting up our children, we are setting up our children for more trauma. I love my coffee. Oh yeah. Anyway, you know, without firearms, there will still be depression. There will still be anxiety. There will still be a whole host of other mental issues, mental health issues, which would lead a child to the point of wanting to inflict mass pain and death on others. You know, the fact that they are there with whatever, whether it's a firearm, a bomb, a knife, a baseball bat, an axe, doesn't matter what's in their hands. The fact that they are even there shows that somewhere in the past is the main issue. You know, no kid leaving a joyful life, mommy and daddy love me, all my friends at school love me, wakes up in the morning and says, I'm going to go kill people. That's not normal. That's not how it happens. There's a series of events that lead to this. This is just the fruition of all of that. When are we going to address that? When? You know, until we start having a serious conversation, again, involving the kids, we will get nowhere. no matter how many regulations we impose on firearms, we will get nowhere. And if our government leaders are sincere in wanting to end these tragic events and not just pushing an agenda, well, this is where they're going to start. But, all right, I'm going to move on to point number 3, which now I get a little ministry on you. Just a little bit, though. Not a whole lot. But if this were truly an opportunity to pay respects to the 17 souls who were lost in this senseless act, then a more appropriate approach would have been a moment of prayer, both for the victims and for the victims' families who were suffering this tragic loss. However, had that happened, we would see every anti-God group coming out of the woodwork and protesting. The removal of God from the classroom is a tragedy in itself. You know, it's moments like these that the practicing of faith is of such importance. The children are allowed and even coached, and don't get that wrong, they are coached. A lot. I'm not saying every single one of them, but many of them are coached to stand up and protest on subjects they barely even know. How many times have we actually had the discussion with them about the Second Amendment? How many times have we actually had the discussion with them about mass shootings? They don't know a whole lot about it. And they're being coached on what to say. They're being given their opinion. They're not allowed to have their own free thinking. And we're seeing evidence now coming out on the internet today that is showing that kids are getting in trouble both with the schools and with their fellow peers if they did not participate in the walkout. And if they had a pro-Second Amendment stance, they were punished. Either, again, like I said, by the school sometimes, in some cases, and in other cases it's by the peers. And they feel outcast because they didn't join the walk-in. They were put through such a traumatic moment of, do I stand firm in my beliefs and a chance being alienated, or do I fear being alienated and join in a protest that I do not agree with? That's the position these kids were put in. This has become, it started off as a wonderful thing. Let's take 17 minutes to pay tribute to the 17 souls lost. But then you had leftist groups like the Women's March getting involved. And they were honest right from the start. They weren't paying respects to 17 souls lost. They were honest from the start. They were pushing Second Amendment reform rights, or regulations. They were pushing gun regulations. That's all they cared about. That's all they cared about. And they're using these children as puppets, and people on the left are arguing with me like, oh, no, they're not. No. How can you sit there and say that? Are you that blind? Are you really that blind that you cannot see that 15 and 16-year-old kids? You know what? In Stockton, California, they had 5 or 6 kids arrested, but hundreds more, at least 100 more, involved in vandalizing and rioting during this walkout. And that is prime proof right there. That's children acting as children. That's what they will do naturally. And I say this guy, listen, when I was in school, if this opportunity came up, I was like, yeah, let's do a walkout. I want to protest. I didn't want to protest. I would have wanted to do what they did. I would have wanted to run like a nut through the town. It's in the name of protest. It's in the name of protest. I can do this. That's children acting right there. That's how they behave. That's their line of thinking. Their minds are not formed, shaped, and melded enough to really understand everything. But you get those older ones that can be easily manipulated by the government. And I'm not trying to insult these kids. I'm not saying they're not intelligent. Today's children are intelligent. The problem is they've not been raised with the opportunity to have their own line of thought. They have been indoctrinated from birth with their parents' liberal beliefs, liberal thinkings. Like, this is it. And it's given to them as fact, undisputable fact, and anybody who disputes that is wrong, and they are racist, they are this, they are that. And this is what we created. So, they're allowed that, though. They're allowed to do this protest. But they're not permitted to support through a simple practice of faith and prayer. That is a major issue. that you're telling me that your child is allowed to go out there and stand and skip school and shout and scream and be obscene about a stance that they have the right to believe in. Doesn't mean I have to, but they have that right. They're allowed to do that. But my child's not allowed to have a prayer circle? When did your rights trump my rights? The last I knew, we all had equal rights. And your feelings are not a dispute. Your feelings are not an argument. It's facts. And the fact is that you are allowing your child to do something and disallowing other children to do something else. You do not care about equal rights. You care about what you want and what you want to see. That's plain and simple. You try to take God out of public buildings, governmental buildings. You took prayer out of school. You think you took God out of school. You're not taking God out of anything. God creates everything. God is everywhere at all times, at any time. You're not taking him out. You're simply making him look at you and say, oh, really? You don't believe in me and you don't want others to believe in me. So you have fun with that. Because as far as I'm concerned, my children have God with them at all times. He walks with me, he walks with them. Jesus Christ, my Lord and Savior, is with me and he is with my children at all times. And if they want to have a prayer circle, I 110% support them. And if you try to stop their prayer circle, then we'll have our debate. Not physical, so no, I'm not threatening anybody. I don't do that anymore. I have come to find out that words, well used and researched, can be much more powerful than any fist I've ever thrown. Ever thrown. The problem is that when these left-sided snowflakes get a little bit of facts as a dose of reality, they can't handle it. Oh, you're a racist. Oh, you're a this. They're not adults. Plain and simple. So that's the end of this message. Hope you guys have a good day. I'm going to go take a nap and then get ready for work. Peace out.